It's fascinating that role-playing games can be used in teacher training and in multiple subjects. Ole Christian, can you tell us a little bit more about how that works?
Well, because of the immersion you get from role-playing games and allowing the students to interact with the world, you can have them play in a sandbox of your creation. And that could be 18th century England. It could be the Bronze Age. Or it could be set as explorers in the Amazon. And using not only in English, but you could speak in English, of course. But using that interactivity and that immersion for the students to play around and interact with, say, special sorts of fauna and flora, or maybe a feudal monarchy. Who do you talk to when, say, there's a war coming or something? There's a lot of interesting ways for the students to play around. Instead of just reading about it, they can, it's sort of a simulation.
Well, and one of our new competence aims in Norway is citizenship and democracy. And it sounds like role-playing games can tie into that too, how different cultures and worlds interact with each other.
Yes, and especially if you play somebody in the crossing point between two cultures, or maybe you could try to take on the role, and you can of course flavor it. You could flavor it in sort of fantasy settings, or like put a veil on modern problems into a fantasy or sci-fi setting, like in Dungeons and Dragons. There's you can play as a half orc or half elf. How is it living between those worlds, and how is it not knowing magic in a magical society, and that could reflect modern problems.
So role-playing games can be used in science or social studies or mathematics, but they can also be used as an inroad to talk about things that young people, perhaps, might not be able to talk about, and a way to address issues where it's not personal, but it's an issue that might relate to something in everyday life.
Yes.
Interesting.
And the students may themselves interact, and shy students may have something to talk about while talking about the game. They may decide to get into character and become more extrovert than they usually are, because they're not talking about their own feelings or their own issues. They're talking about the character's issues. So it's a good social play arena.
Wow. I'm becoming more and more convinced that role-playing is a very great tool to use in teacher training as well. Thank you so much, and look forward to talking to you another time.
Thanks for having me.